Okay. How's everyone doing? Good? Awesome. That was a great intro, I think, from Leah as well, just on the topic of AI and how to start thinking about AI in the product role. This presentation is going to be a little bit on the practical side. It's called Thriving as an AI PM, and we're going to talk about some of the skills that you will start to deploy as your product manager in your day-to-day, learning about AI. But first, does anyone know this woman? Anyone recognize this? That's OK. This is kind of an obscure image. This is Mary Anning, and actually in the background, this is Lyme Regis. So this is in a town in the county of Dorset, not too far from here. And Mary is actually one of the first paleontologists. There's a bit of a hint with the hammer in her hand. So one day, while exploring the cliffs of Lyme Regis, she uncovers a mysterious fossil. And back then, fossils kind of look like this. They're really just like scattered fragments of bones and rocks, and you're trying to pick out what exactly is this small thing that's on the ground. And at the time, this was really a big discovery. In fact, finding something like this actually sparked a ton of curiosity from people in the area. And they all started flocking to the area and finding more fossils and started trying to piece them together to understand what is this thing that existed before us. And these were some like mystical creatures that they basically formed with some of those fossils. They were dinosaurs that didn't really exist because people didn't really know what dinosaurs were. They were just mystical beings. And it took a long time before we actually got to what we now know to be T-Rex, or like some of the more common dinosaurs that we kind of understand today. And my goal in this session is try to help you develop the intuition for how to see these fossils, which are kind of resembling the AI stack today, which is these like fragmented pieces of tools and bone, and try to construct what looks like a T-Rex, which is actually a product, an actual thing, versus what we had before, which is we're not really sure what the look and shape of these fossils should be. So let's think about what does a great AI product look like, what should it feel like, and let's start to dive in and start building that intuition. OK, who's this random guy up here talking about fossils, right? So my name's Aman. I've spent the last close to 10 years in San Francisco and in New York building products around AI. So as Mike mentioned, it was on Spotify's machine learning platform team, a product I think most people here know and love and use, basically working on how to turn billions of signals every single day into models that we can use for predictive and ranking for things like Discover Weekly, or features that we know and love around personalization. Prior to that, I was actually working on evaluations for self-driving cars at a company called Cruise, which was partially owned by GM. And it's funny, a lot of those same skills are kind of what I'm applying today in my role as a product manager at a company called Arize. Arize is a tool that helps companies that are building and shipping AI understand the impact of that AI at scale in production, and then use the same data that you're using, that you're getting from production back into development. And so we work with companies like Uber, Reddit, Instacart, kind of household names here. But it's kind of funny, I've been working on basically the same problem for like the earliest part of my career. I'm still working on evaluation, and I'm turning that signal from, Spotify is one of our customers as well. So we actually work with some of the same companies I used to work at as well. We're now a Series C company, so I joined as an early PM at Arize, and our latest round was actually led by Microsoft and Datadog as well. So we're kind of turning into a real company in that scale-up phase. So what I'm going to be talking about is essentially my 5 essential skills that I really want to share with you all what separates a good AI product manager from a great AI product manager. And I want to share with you practical takeaways that you can actually start applying in your job immediately. We all know AI is like entering our jobs, but how should you think about the technology on a day-to-day basis in how it impacts the products that you're building, and how to learn about the subject if this is still new to you as well? PMs love funnels, so you can also think about this as a funnel. You can think about this as starting at the top level with the foundation and getting deeper and deeper into the stack with curiosity, basically allowing you to uncover more of like how this technology can actually impact your day-to-day role and getting more and more specific. OK, so let's start with the fundamentals. What do I mean by this? So when I think about the fundamentals, I think about a sort of spectrum of content here. On the left-hand side, you have deeply technical. On the right hand, it's AI meets TikTok. For the folks in the back, this paper is Attention is All You Need. How many people have heard of this paper before? OK, a few folks here. How many people have actually read the paper? That's what I thought. So attention is all you need is actually sort of the underpinning of the large language model revolution we're seeing today. It's actually what kicked off all of the research around transformer-based models. And that's essentially maybe one of the most important papers for someone to actually read if they were going to learn about this topic. But we all know that it's pretty dense to read archive papers. And especially if you don't have a background in the subject, it's going to be hard to pick it up right away. Let's go to the right-hand side a little bit here. This is where I kind of call AI meets TikTok. This is like, it's not exactly brain rot, but it's not going to be good for you. Like, it's like sugary cereal in the morning, right? Like, it gets you going. You're like, let me learn about AI today. And you kind of go on YouTube and you see some like catchy headline or something that's like kind of some image that's going to get your attention. But it's not really telling you about what this technology can do and help you build the intuition around it. So what I like to think of is sort of content that's in the middle of both of these. I'm a little biased. We just did a course with Andrew Ng on deep learning AI around evaluating AI agents. But even if you never read Attention is All You Need, there's a great video from Andrej Karpathy, an excellent researcher and educator in the subject, that kind of covers the fundamentals of what the paper was talking about in the first place. And so I implore you all to really take a look at what type of content is going to help you build an intuition for the fundamentals. I'd argue you don't need to be on the deeply technical Attention is All You Need unless you're truly interested by the subject. But I also don't think that, I hear a lot from PMs. Something I hear pretty often is, I'm just not technical. I didn't go to school for this. I didn't study computer science. That's OK. I didn't study computer science either. And so I think that the idea here is for PMs to be able to up-level themselves by understanding the fundamentals of the technology and find content that interests you, that actually pushes you in the direction of getting that foundation. OK, and in case, for what it's worth, I do also kind of maintain a list of tools that I'll be sharing at the end with my Substack, which is free to access. So this is where I curate tools and resources that I have found helpful in my day-to-day to keep up with things that are changing constantly in the field. So it's kind of a living list right now. OK, let's get a little bit deeper. So we'll make this tactical. So we have this customer, large travel site, I think maybe the largest in Europe, that folks are definitely familiar with. And they wanted to build, they have an existing trip planner product. Let's imagine, one of their users comes to the product and wants to book a trip to San Francisco. What does that product experience look like today? Well, normally when you go to a travel site, you type in the destination. You get a list of hotels, flights. Maybe you pick one of those, and you book it on the travel site, right? Pretty simple travel experience. About 2 years ago, they came to us and they said, Aman, we put an LLM in the system. And they were so excited. They're like, we put a chatbot in the system, and it's making calls to APIs, and users can type in text, and they can just tell it, book me a trip to San Francisco, and it goes off and starts doing that. And the problem is that people are starting to abuse the system, and they don't really like the experience. They're starting to swear at the system, and they're trying to like exploit it, and we're not really sure how to catch if they're doing this either. So it's out in production, but we're not really measuring if people are trying to abuse the system or game it. And so we just had to pause, and we were like, the first question we asked was, why? Why did you do this? Like, why did you take an existing product and put an LLM in it? Right? And what's kind of funny here is this is not really an AI product management skill. This is just a product management skill. This is something that you should be asking customers, your customers, if you're selling either to enterprises or to downstream consumers, what are they trying to do with the product? What's the goal? And so we asked our customer, why did you do this? And what we realized was we had a fundamental misunderstanding of what their goals were, which was they weren't trying to build a trip planner product. They were trying to build a personalized trip planner for each and every single one of their users. And so that made us realize, OK, what they're trying to build is not just an LLM chatbot on top of their existing system. They're trying to re-architect their system to be personalized and have access to the data that they have so that they can create this unique experience that has stronger user retention for them. And so I think the combination of PM fundamentals, pausing and asking why, and not just jumping into the tech itself, but then also understanding why would a user apply this technology is really where you get superpowers, right? Like you're the person in the room that understands the technology and knows how to talk to the customer. And I think that's a really unique position to sit in to understand how to improve their end product experience as well. So we're getting a little bit deeper. We have the fundamentals, we have the customer obsession, we're curious about how to build products around AI. Rapid prototyping. So this is kind of a hot take that's been coming up more and more. It's like, there's this buzzword of like PMs need to start building with these tools, and PRDs are dead. But I do think that there's some amount of intuition here around what's the end user experience you're optimizing for. A great example would be what Leah was just talking about with designing for Gary, right? Like, who's really designing for Gary? Who's building the product prototype that that person can then go use to maybe get feedback? So I kind of view this in sort of 3 stages. I would start with discovery. What can AI do in your product today that you might not already be exploring? You can then test the feasibility with some of these tools, and then go beyond the hype and test, is it actually useful for your end users? And so prototyping starts to become a critical skill for product managers as they're trying to test new ideas with their customers. Quick show of hands here. How many folks are familiar or have heard of some of the products on this screen? OK, quite a few hands. How many people have tried to use one of these products? Good show of hands there. OK, awesome. So the goal here is, what I kind of say is like the takeaway here is if you haven't tried to use Lovable or Bold specifically on the top right, I highly recommend that you go back and actually try to use one of these tools to get an understanding for what they can be useful for in your day-to-day job. The goal here is to get hands on products like this and understand, OK, what can I use it for in terms of building a prototype? Let me give you an example. So I was recently on Lenny's podcast a few months ago. And before the episode comes out, like literally the night before, my partner turns to me and she's like, when's the last time you updated your website? Because I'm on it right now and it says you're still in college. And I was like, oh, God. OK, well, so I whipped open my laptop and I found Vercel. And Vercel kind of is this uniquely positioned browser-based development tool. V0 is a product that they offer with skills in full stack. And so that means that it's really quick at whipping up prototypes for beautiful websites using traditional sort of SaaS components. And so within like 30 minutes, if you go to my personal website, it's what I built in about 30 minutes to an hour using Vercel. No fancy sauce there at all. I'm not like writing code. I'm literally prompting this thing with what I want it to look like. And that would not have really been possible even a year ago, right? Like this technology is so new and is changing so fast that the closer that you are to trying it and using it for your day-to-day and solving some small problem, the more intuition you'll have for the next iteration when it gets even better. So that's really the goal here. The takeaway is find some problem in your daily life that you might already be facing today that you didn't think that you had the technical chops to go and solve, but go to one of these tools and just try it out. And you'll kind of find the boundaries of what's possible. It's not going to solve all of your problems, right? It's going to suck. It's going to hallucinate. But the point is to keep developing that intuition. And kind of going even deeper there, those are the coding agents that you can kind of use day to day. But I also do think that learning from great AI experiences and how they work is sort of like test driving a great car and then like trying to understand what's the technology that makes it that great. So this is a company called Cursor. Why am I throwing Cursor up here? You guys may have seen a Lex Friedman podcast episode that the team did. And what's really interesting about this team is it's not just a great AI product, it's actually a really successful commercial product. In fact, it is the fastest app product to go from 1 million to 100 million in ARR. That's pretty special, right? Like, how do you take AI and turn it into a commercial product? Now, I know I'm talking a lot about like startups and like these kind of Silicon Valley, like very specific tools that people are using for code. But I do think that there are lessons here in your own companies and businesses to understand what makes Cursor so good. And one of their mottos is fast is fun, right? Like they designed a product experience around the app being fast. And they were like, AI is going to be right. It's going to write a lot of code. But it's not just going to write code. It's going to be really, really fast. And so understanding how they did that, and it's a really long episode, I will say that. Maybe you want to put that into like ChatGPT and get the summary notes. But just to get some of those takeaways around how can you apply the underlying technology in your own AI products that you're building can be really, really helpful. So some of the questions you might want to ask are, what are the models that they're using? What are the tools that they use? What are some of the emerging paradigms like KV cache, and what does this mean that maybe I want to go back to my engineering team with and ask them questions around how we can apply the same techniques in our own product? OK, we're getting closer to the end here, but now we've got the foundation. We've talked to our customers. We kind of understand the problems that they're facing. We know what they're trying to build. Maybe they're trying to deploy AI in their way, in some way. And now they're building, and now we know how to build prototypes for them. We can come to them with a mock-up that's more than just a PRD. We can come back to our team with something that's actually interactive. And we kind of know, OK, we know what's going on underneath the hood with these great AI experiences. The thing is, you're not really done there, because this technology today is fallible, right? We know this today. We know that LLMs hallucinate. And so even in the case of the largest travel sites in the world with chatbots, LLMs are going to hallucinate. That doesn't mean you don't use them. It just means that your job is to understand when they're hallucinating so that they don't embarrass you, your company, or your brand. And I know this is a tweet from Gary Tan. He's the person that runs Y Combinator. And even he himself is saying his evals are emerging as a real moat for AI startups. I take it one step further. I would say it's not just AI startups where evals and observability is important. Again, I'm a little biased. I've been in this space for some time. But I do think that understanding how your product works when you're shipping with AI is really, really important. And that's what evals will help you kind of solve for. We've talked a lot about evals, but I want to throw this up on the screen. It's a little bit of code, but it's written text. It's not, don't be too scared if in case it feels technical. But I want to break down when you hear more about evals, because there's more content coming up around evals and how important they are in the stack. I want you to remember this image, which is basically, it's a prompt. The eval is a way that you prompt a model to judge the output of another model or some input text. And it's really just 4 steps. It's setting the role. You are a judge LLM, or you are evaluating context. You're providing the context itself, which is putting in the data from the conversation or the thing you want the model to evaluate. You're giving it a goal. So you're saying, examine this text and determine whether the text is toxic or not toxic. For instance, like, is this person trying to say something rude to our chatbot? And then you're saying and defining what is toxic and not toxic. Why am I breaking this down? Because basically, this is providing instructions to another LLM on how to evaluate your system as a whole. So if you're thinking of building with AI, it's just a prompt. It's just text. It's something that PMs should be thinking about and writing even now. In fact, I'd argue that the ability to write prompts is one of the highest leverage kind of things that PMs can do today. If your product has AI and LLMs and generative AI in it already, you should know what the prompts are that are driving the end user experience and also understand how to evaluate the end user experience with prompts. There's no magic here, it's just text. So it's kind of good to know, right? OK, that was a lot. Every PM is evolving into an AI PM role. Well, I do firmly believe this. I think that AI is going to be as ubiquitous as the database, right? Like, you can't imagine building a software product. We're all software product managers. Try and imagine building a software product without a database, right? That doesn't mean that like product management is dead, kind of what Leah was saying before. I don't think product management is dead. I don't think that it means that you show up to the meeting with no PRD. I just think that knowing what's going on, where the technology is headed and how to apply it intuitively is maybe the highest leverage thing you can be doing right now when it comes to AI product management. And some of the takeaways here, so these are all kind of like practical skills that you can apply in your day-to-day with AI. I think thinking about the PM fundamentals, but also AI fundamentals together is going to give you a superpower when you go back to your team and communicate with them. You're going to immediately have more credibility and also understand intuitively where the boundaries of the technology are. I think challenge yourself to go from requirements on paper to working prototypes. Just try it out. Take that PRD and put it into one of those prototyping tools and see what happens in the future. I don't think that means don't show up with a written set of requirements for your team, but I think that your ability to communicate with actual mocks that are interactive will make you able to communicate even that much stronger with your engineering team. Think about tools in your day-to-day life. So not just Claude, Perplexity, but think about how tools that are deploying AI in their own products are going to impact your role. So go beyond just docs and slides. And if the tool doesn't exist, maybe that's an opportunity to try to build something for yourself, right? So that's like build those tools yourselves. Think about A/B testing prompts, sort of going from A/B testing users to A/B testing prompts. I think there's a lot of paradigms there that are really similar. So it's like, how do you run an experiment with a prompt that you might be changing in your product? And then underneath all of that, understand the impact of what happens when you ship to production. So with that, I want to leave a thought here with all of you, which is, we've talked a lot about how to get deeper in the stack. And what I'm hoping is that you all have this foundation where your own curiosity will kind of keep pushing you further in this field. Like, my goal is to leave you all with this thought that you actually now have the tools to understand how do you apply AI more in your day-to-day job, but also understand how it's going to impact the role of product management. And kind of bring it back to the dinosaurs analogy. Remember, just like those paleontologists, you have to get your hands dirty a little bit. But now we obviously understand what dinosaurs look like and what dinosaurs look like. And right now, when it comes to AI products, we're still not fully sure what great AI experiences look like. And I think it's up to the people in this room and to you to go back and define what should a great AI experience be? Because no one is really coming out here and saying, like, this is what the final UI is going to be. It's going to be a chatbot. I highly doubt that. And so I urge all of you to think about how do you take those tools and apply them to building a great AI experience that doesn't exist yet, so that we can all learn from that experience. With that, I want to thank you for your time, and I'll be sticking around after this in case any of this resonated and you want to chat further. Thank you.